1 Samuel chapter 27 paints a picture of David that is hard to stomach, really. David, our great hero, humiliates himself. David, the man of God, goes groveling to a godless pagan king. What on earth is going on here? You know, it is possible for a person to be put under such pressure, such stress for such a prolonged period of time that they will simply snap. We all have a kind of breaking point physically, don't we? Our bodies give out under certain conditions. The Bible regularly reminds us of our own weakness, not to make us miserable, but we are reminded of our weakness to give us a greater awareness of our desperate need for God. We do not have limitless boundaries and endless capacities. We're just human. This collapse of confidence from David here stems from the fact that he is human, and the best of men are men at best. Verse 1, David thought to himself, "One of these days I will be destroyed by the hand of Saul. The best thing I can do is to escape to the land of the Philistines. Then Saul will give up searching for me anywhere in Israel, and I will slip out of his hand." But David, we would say, you're not in Saul's hands. You're in God's hands. Still, he flees. We find out in verse 2 that David has 600 men with him, and in verse 3 we find each man had his family with him. So in all likelihood, somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 people that David is responsible for. And they go now to give their allegiance to Achish, king of Gath. That's one of the capital cities of the Philistines. Now, we've met this man, Achish, before. David slipped into Gath on a previous occasion, seeking refuge from King Saul, hoping to be unrecognized. But immediately he was identified, he was taken to stand before the king. How did he get out of that sticky situation? Well, by faking a disability, really. By feigning insanity before the king, and then he was released. Now, since then, between chapter 21 and chapter 27, David has been fighting against the Philistines. So surely this Philistine king is not going to fall for David's deceptions a second time, right? Wrong. Clearly, this guy is a sandwich short of a picnic. He believes the story that David is about to spin for him. Now, before we get to this story, why would Achish be so quick to believe? Well, David is a powerful man with a great legendary story behind him. The giant killer, Israel's greatest defender. If great David serves King Achish, how great does that make Achish? Secondly, at least some of the story looks like it checks out. David is on the run from King Saul. He has been chased out of his own country. Some of his own people do keep turning against him and betraying him. Think about the Ziphites who keep reporting on his whereabouts to the king. And so when David now tells Achish that he is no longer going to be part of the Israelites, he's formed his own band of wilderness wandering warriors, and they are looking for a place to call home, I think Achish believes him, that David really has turned his back on his people and his king, and could now be an asset to the nation that he calls home. He, of course, will be required to pay tribute to the king financially, and so Achish will be better off with David serving him. It inflates the economy, it inflates his ego, it inflates his reputation. He's suckered in by it for a second time. David, for his part, doesn't want to be under this Philistine king's watchful gaze any more than he has to be. And so again, by flattering him and appealing to his ego, he manages to get his own city assigned to him and the few thousand people with him. Why should your servant live in the royal city with you? As if to say, I am not worthy, and I don't want to cramp your style or tread on your toes. Then we are told about how David would plunder the surrounding cities and give Achish his share of the spoils and a false report. Whenever Achish would ask, "Where did you get these things?" David would lie. And we are reminded that there was never someone left alive to testify against him. No escapee could say, well, hang on a minute, David and his men didn't attack Israelites, they attacked Canaanites, us. And so word never did get back to Achish about David's deception of him. And so just to spell out exactly what's going on here, David is not attacking the Philistines, of course, because they are his hosts. If he wants to live in that land, he cannot attack those people, so they're off limits. He doesn't want to attack the Israelites, of course, they are his people. So instead, he attacks a group of people known broadly as the Canaanites. But notice that when he gives the report to Achish, he claims the spoils came from the Israelites. Why would he say that? Because he's trying to sell the illusion to Achish that he has turned against his former people and truly now belongs to the Philistines. He wants to give Achish no cause to doubt his devotion or drive him out of the land. Listen to this final revealing statement, verse 12. Achish trusted David and said to himself, "He has become so obnoxious to his people, the Israelites, that he will be my servant for life." Now, things look pretty dark as this chapter draws to a close, and they're going to get worse before they get better. This chapter should serve as a reminder of the weakness of sinful men and women. And so your trust as a servant of the living God should be in Him. It should not be ultimately in your friends, family, your parents, your pastors, your spiritual icons and heroes. You could love them, but you should expect them all to let you down on one level. But you should trust in God and know that He will see you safely through.